Rise and shine, it's a brand new day. Ken can take the stage, ready to play. Weekdays at 10, the cars and the scene. Coffee in hand, they're living the dream. Aggression in their voice, got the whole town awake. Bringing fire to the mic, make no mistake. Shows in the corner, spitting out facts. Dropping truth bombs, ain't holding back. Ken in the morning, feel the heat. From 10 a.m. CST, can take a seat. We live and love that break in the mind. Light up your speakers, crank up the sound. They're talking about life upside down. Opinions exploding like a sonic blast. In the studio, they're built to last. With passion and grit, they engage and ignite. Every single week, they're a force can't fight. From sports to politics,
This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.
Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Ken and, well, no Ken, other Ken this morning. He had an emergency. So Ken and Ken in the morning, but we got a broski bear. Hey, what's up, brother?
Good morning, Ken. How you doing today?
Oh, behind the Powerball today, it seems. Well, it's like I have to do all the stuff, the forwarding that normally happens. And like, I like our new intro, but man, is it short.
Yeah, I was going to say it definitely got trimmed down a little, huh?
Yeah, about a minute and a half.
Yep.
So one more place to put this on Twitter.
I will say it is a catchy little intro, though.
It's a catchy little tune, catchy little number. There we go.
Yeah, man.
How you been doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I have been super, super busy. Pretty much the last month. The month of June is a really busy one for me. Typically, this past June was extra busy. Just slammed at work, but I could still find time for Ken and Ken, and I'm working as I'm talking all the time when I'm on this, when I'm on the show here.
Yeah.
But
this work thing we speak of, I don't know what work is.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of keep that a little close to the vest right now, but it's
no. I mean, I'm retired, so that's what I mean. What's this work thing you speak?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm lucky enough where I have my, I can work from home, but I go into the office a lot because I have an office that's in the main office. I have my own office. I can close the door and go on the show. So
yeah,
it's a good little.
My daughter, she's been working from home since she started her current job, which was, she works for the state. Well, yeah, it kind of works for the state of Florida in a way. Anywho, they just ordered them all back to the office. And so she was upset. She's like, I got to go back to the office because it's great with the baby. We pick up the baby at a decent time, blah, blah, blah. And now she's got to go to the office. So my wife's like, yeah, whatever. We pick up the baby earlier, which gives us more grandbaby time. But yeah, she's like not happy. She has to go back to the office. I mean, working from home is great. I never had that opportunity in my job really. But my wife, she worked from home for her last job she had before she retired. And I can see why people like it so much. I can also understand why employers want people in offices.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fine line. It really is, because you have to have good employees who don't take advantage of it, because it's very easy to take advantage of. Like if you see performance dipping, if you see that people aren't available when they should, yeah, that totally messes it up for everyone else who wants to work from home. However, if you actually have good employees, just by nature of how good good employees are, you might actually get more out of them. They might actually be more efficient.
It depends on the type of work you do. Like my wife, she worked for hey, where's my cup at, Joe? She worked for a finance company and she handled clients, right? And so she didn't have to really. Her job didn't necessitate her to be in a working environment where she'd go, hey, Jim, what do you think about this? She was just able to handle everything. She was proficient. So if you have a kind of job too where you don't have to have the team on stuff, where it's more individual based, I think it works great. But I know for the Army, wargaming out stuff, dude, you can't wargame stuff out at home. You have to be in the conference room and be on the whiteboard and
Well,
it'd be like the NFL trying to work from home for minicamp.
yeah, and to that, I'll just say broadly, I'm in the financial industry as well. I have a ton of clients, and I manage teams all around the globe who report to me. Microsoft Teams is a beautiful thing. If it wasn't for Microsoft Teams, I wouldn't be able to get it done. But yeah, we get things done. We collab on a call or whatever. Seamlessly, so that's huge. And like I said, I've had experiences with people who roll up to me who are totally taking advantage of the work from home environment, and some who are actually overachieving to the point where I'm like, dude, just because you're working from home doesn't mean you have to work like 12-hour days, man. Like, you still work your regular day.
Well, speaking of not working from home, I came across an interesting article, fellas, that might be interesting. This is just the offense, okay? The largest cap hits of 2025. I'll start with this question. Who do you think has the biggest cap hit in 2025 as an individual player?
2025?
Yep.
Oh, man, I think I had this answer the other day.
Jared Goff.
Jared Goff is next year.
Oh,
yeah. Joseph says Jared Goff. Jared Goff is actually number 12 on the list at $32.6 million. He's the first offensive player in the NFC North on the list.
It might be Trevor. It might be Trevor Lawrence. It might be, who the fuck else is it?
Trevor Lawrence is not even on the list of the top 20.
Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I forgot.
One cap hit offensively coming in at $50.52 million this year, Dak Prescott.
Dak Goff. So, Joe, you were partially right.
At second is Stafford at 47.47. Interesting number. Joe Burrow comes in at 46 million. Lamar Jackson comes in at 43.5. Kyler Murray at 43.33. Kirk Cousins at an even 40 million. Same for Geno Smith. There's a Raider. Tua comes in at 39.18. Geez. Justin Herbert, 37.35. Josh Allen, 36.34. Deshaun Watson, 35.97. Then Goff at number 12. Then we get the first non-quarterback, and he's from the Panthers. Maybe your next door neighbor, Broski. Taylor Moton, the right tackle for the Panthers. Then Jordan Love at 29.69. Mahomes is at 28.06 at number 15. Then we finally get a couple non-quarterbacks. Calvin Ridley from the Titans, 28 mil. Tyreek Hill at 27.7. Jawan Taylor, right tackle Chiefs, 27.39. Then comes Baker at 26.48. Scary Terry at 25.5, and he wants an extension. Mike Evans at 25.3. DJ Moore at 24.9. T. Higgins at 24.06. Jamar Chase at 23.57. And Trey Smith at 23.4. Those are your top 25 cap hits of this year. Yep, Burrow is on that list.
Ken, who was number 2 again?
Number 2 would be Matthew Stafford at 47.47 million.
Okay, Matthew Stafford. All right.
Yeah. That's just the offensive side of the ball. I don't have the list of the defensive. They'll probably do that tomorrow. But yeah, I was like, okay, a little bit interesting there. Some surprises. Like a certain quarterback from Jacksonville is not on that list. I'm kind of not surprised, but surprised DJ Moore is on that list. I mean, he's way back there with the receivers because his contract wasn't exactly gangbusters. It was a good deal for both sides. But okay, but yes, some pretty big cap hits for the quarterbacks.
Yeah, you're not kidding. And it's only going to go up more. Like, I was actually expecting the numbers to be a little bit higher, but I guess that's for more of the quarterbacks who more recently signed new contracts, where it's going to be like, $55 million, $60 million cap hits at some point. Goff next year, $69 million. Obviously, he's going to have to restructure that, but there's some big numbers right there.
I mean,
I'm going
and
to
you
tell you
figure,
the one that surprises me is Geno Smith at 40 million, but Jordan Love is at
yeah,
29 million. Because Geno
yeah.
doesn't make anywhere near what Jordan Love makes on an annual basis, but his cap hit is
That
way bigger. It's like,
well, it goes to the structuring of the deals when these guys sign them, right? Like Jordan Love, his cap hit big number might be next year. Last year was a pretty big number. So sometimes they'll front load the cap hit. If let's say we're not spending a lot this year and we can front load it, we front load the cap hit, which is actually smart if you think about it. If you're a GM and you've got 100 million in cap space and you know you're not going to sign any big free agents, but you have to re-sign, let's say, your quarterback, and he's going to be expensive, hell, front load the cap hit as much as possible so the next year you can go out and get some guys. Or, I mean, so, we get to cap management, not to make this a show about cap management today, but I mean, it's an interesting piece of it because these guys, the contracts are ridiculous. You've got to figure out a way to manage the cap, where you're pushing money off, putting money up front if you've got a lot of space right now. So, like, for instance, if you're like, I'm trying to think of a team with a good quarterback, but not much else right now signed. So no one in the North really is there. But like the Raiders, actually, with Geno Smith, the Raiders don't have a lot of money to spend on other people, right? So why not front load Geno's cap hit this year and give you more cap money to play with next year instead of evening it out, right? I mean,
well, kind of, but the Raiders did have a lot of money, and then they spent a good chunk, like
right, but that's
on
what I'm
Geno
saying, though.
and on other people. Like they still have like 30 million.
Well, that's
in
what I'm
cap
saying.
space
You've
right
got
now.
a big chunk of money. You're not going to spend it all on free agents. So
I misheard you. I thought you were saying that they didn't have a lot of money.
no, it's like, so let's like, if let's say we're going to give, let's say we owned a team and Broski's my quarterback and I've got 100 million in cap space and I know I'm not going to spend 100 million on free agents in the draft. So, but I need to re-sign them, right? So why don't I re-sign them to the $50 million a year contract, so the 5-year 250, and I'll make like 60 million of that cap hit be this year. Right. So I'll take a bigger cap hit this year. And look, we already know, and Bear fan, or Mike the Bear fan, his biggest complaint is the dollar spent's not a dollar in the cap. Of that 250, some of that never sees a cap hit for whatever reason. It's the way they make it bonus money or whatever they do. But then, like, the portion that is cap money, I'm going to front load a lot of it this year, so I can get most of Broski, that guaranteed money. I'm going to front load as much as I can on my cap hit this year, right? So I don't have that. I mean, it's weird how they do this, but like Dak's contract, and they still have to sign Micah Parsons. They still have to, and they still got. It's ridiculous, these cap hits. When you look at a quarterback being 15 to 20%, one guy, 15 to 20% of your budget. Jeez.
Yeah, that's a lot when you think of it. I mean, and then you look at too, like, okay, so you have a stud quarterback. I mean, what are the next highest paid positions? In any order, it's probably like wide receiver, D end, and left tackle. So it's like, okay, so you obviously want to have a premier wide receiver for your premier highly paid quarterback. So I mean, just for your quarterback, your number one wide receiver. I mean, you're gonna have maybe
100 million.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have like
You're looking
30 to 40% of your salary spent on two
you're looking at
guys.
about 70 million. I would say on average, you're probably looking at close to 70 million if you don't have a rookie contract quarterback, and you've got a 25 to 30 million dollar a year receiver. But look at like Joe Burrow. He's got 2 receivers that are paying.
Yeah.
Right. So between the two of them, you're spending what?
60 million. Jamar Chase is getting 40, and then
so
T.
Burrow's
Higgins is getting
46. Right. Chase is 23. So right there's 60. We'll call it 70. It's close enough. Call it 70, and then you throw in. You're probably looking almost 80, 90 million just on 3 guys. And what's a cap? 279 million.
Yeah,
and then if you got a stud, if you get a stud quarterback, a stud defensive end, right there, you're probably looking at 80 to 90 million. Now throw in at least one receiver at 20, you're at 110 million. You're almost at, at what, 40% of your budget, and you still got 50 other guys you got to sign?
Yeah. I mean,
and then you got to get a left tackle to protect your quarterback that you're paying $60 million a year.
You're paying $20 million on. You're probably paying your line. What's the average line in the NFL? 30 million, probably minimum for a good, decent line. 30 million. So right there, just between your offensive line, your quarterback, and receiver, you've locked up 120 million, almost half of your cap, 140 million, whatever, half your cap, and you still need running backs, tight ends, kickers, long snappers, safeties,
linebackers.
corners. Yeah. And now you look on the defensive side, you put an edge up for 30 million, and now you've got a corner or safety at 20 or 30 million, and maybe a linebacker at 20 million, and you still got to do the interior. You still got, so whoever manages these caps, dude, that's not an easy job.
No, you almost have to be like a forensic accountant to like help manage that, because you need some creativity mixed in too. It's not just all because it's number crunching. It's like, no, you have to like know your budget like 5 years from now. You have to know, you know what I mean? Like you have to, there's a lot that goes into a lot of projecting into the future, a lot of, hey, what can we do now? Like what are our options now to maybe reduce some of the contracts? Yeah, it's a lot.
You need some cash only front businesses like laundromats.
Well, like the Bears, just look at the Bears real quick. Like Poles has been smart with it. Montez Sweat is actually the biggest cap number for the Bears at $25.085 million. Okay, then comes DJ Moore. Jalen Johnson's an even 21. Tremaine Edmonds, he's the outlier, right, at 17.4. But, and then you've got Jonah Jackson, 14, Drew Dahlman at 13 and change, Cole Kmet, 11 and change, DeAndre Swift, and now everyone's under 10 million. DeAndre Swift, 9.3, Caleb, 8.9, Byard, 8.5 on last year, Deo, 8, Joe Tooney, 8 million this year. I mean, they do really well with, he's done really well at keeping the cap numbers down. If I look at the Raiders, stupid ad. Come on, ad. Go away. If I look at the Raiders, a little bit of a different story. Geno Smith, 40 million. Max Crosby, 38.1. Christian Wilkins, 18. Colton Miller, 15. Jacoby Myers, 14. And then you get 10 million at Malcolm Kuntz. And then they start to, then there's, 6.5, whatever. A little bit of a drop, but they've got less guys above 10 million than the Bears do. So, let's look at that. I mean, which team do you think is probably doing better record-wise this year? The team that is more evened out with contracts like that, or the team where you've got this big disparity? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, and the Bears are lucky. They got some good rookie contracts, right? Yeah, the Saints, 86.5 in dead cap. Let's look at the Saints, actually. But I mean, so it's hard to get it where you have kind of like, real quick, going back to the Bears before they go to the Saints. The Bears are spending $150 million on offense, $144 million on defense, $8.2 million on special. They have $14 million left, but of course, they got the 3 second-rounders who they need to sign. So make that more about $8 to $9 million left in cap, right? So I mean, they're pretty balanced. The Raiders, real quick, let me go back to them real quick. The Raiders are pretty balanced too. 129 on offense and 133 on D and 11.3 on special. And they've got 31 million cap left.
And I don't know if this is true. I heard it, but I haven't looked at it for myself. But somebody was saying that the Raiders are scheduled to have another 100 million in cap space next season. Which, like you said, I think they put. That's why they front loaded Geno like that. Because now they're going to have money to spend.
82.6 million in debt, and that comes from Lattimore's 31.6 million, Derek Carr's 19.2. Yeah, I mean that's terrible. But then they've got, believe it or not, 23 million cap space now. They got a draft pick to sign. Taysom Hill is their biggest cap number right now at 17.9 mil. Then Alvin Kamara at 10 mil, and then it's like a bunch of 9s, 8. Chris Olave is only 6 mil this year. Chase Young is only 6 mil this year. Cam Jordan, 9.7. So they actually are doing pretty good for next year. For 2026, they're negative 24 mil right now, with only 48 million in dead cap, which is Derek Carr and Ryan Ramczyk. But I think they'll get some relief on Derek Carr with him retiring. Next year, though, they got Tyson Hill's number is actually a void year, so they'll save 9 million there if they void him. Cam Jordan's a void year at 18 million. Demario Davis is a void year at 14 million. Tyrann Mateo is a void year at 9 million. They got a lot of void years there. Now, if I go back to the Raiders for next year, Joe, the Raiders next year are currently at $90.999 million available. And Gino's cap number goes to 26.5. Max's goes to 35.8. And Christian Wilkins goes to 37.6. Woo.
Yeah, and Wilkins, man, he has not panned out. You know, like they signed him to that big contract. It was like 4 years, 100 and something million with like 90 something million guaranteed, or 87.5 guaranteed. He got injured early last season, had surgery, and then like they had to put like a screw in his foot, and the screw like broke off or something, and now like there's talk that he might have to have surgery again, so he might miss this entire season.
Now, so that means if he missed the whole season with that, I mean, obviously the Raiders will get some cap relief, right? For the Saints, they'll get some cap relief on Carr, I think, when he files his retirement paperwork. Like, so there is some relief.
Will they get relief for an injury?
Yeah, because Deshaun Watson, if he's out, we were talking about it yesterday and then last night on JB's show. If he's out for the whole year, like pup or injured, there is some cap relief that happens. It might not be till about the trade deadline, but there is some cap relief that happens.
Yeah, I was going to say, with quarterbacks, wide receivers, defensive ends, with their annual salaries just taken off, going through the roof, like it really does put even more emphasis on the draft. Like you have to hit on draft picks to have a chance to be successful, to have a chance to guarantee that you will have a window to win a Super Bowl.
Yep.
Now, conversely, I didn't do this, but the Bears next year for our cap space, negative 4.6 mil, so they're fine overall. But they're no void year deal. Oh, Ryan Bates is a void year, but doesn't count. There's zeros across the board there already. The only contracts that really the Bears will probably be looking at, DJ Moore's cap hit next year. Okay, 28 mil. That's fine. They're going to be looking at Tremaine Edmonds, $17 million cap hit next year. They're going to be looking at Cole Kmet's $11.6 million, which is the same as this year. And after that, really, Deo's cap hit next year is $20 million. Joe Tooney's $21.5 million next year. Grady Jarrett's $19 million next year. So there, a couple of those guys they just signed, but you figure Tremaine Edmonds, they're going to look at his cap hit. Cole Kmet, we'll see what happens. I think DeAndre Swift at 8.8, they're not even going to bother. If he has a good season, I'm not. That's a non-looker for me, because that's what you're gonna. If you sign another running back, that's about what you're going to spend anyways. There you go, Isaac, with the answer. Yep, there's injury relief to the team caps. Yep, I thought there was. Thank you, Isaac. So, I mean, it's interesting when they look at the cap and the cap casualties you get, and post June 1st or designated as post June 1st. So the Bears might be in that next year. The Raiders don't have to. But like if I'm the Raiders, like I got all that money, I got $100 million next year. If I sign I'm front loading. I'm front loading that cap number.
Yeah, I was going to say Bleacher Report actually came out with a couple of articles recently. One about Tremaine Edmonds, they featured him as the most overpaid linebacker in the NFL, and Cole Kmet is the most overpaid tight end.
I
So
think for Tremaine Edmonds, it's on him, right? He's a good complimentary piece to Edwards, but not worth, but you don't pay the complimentary piece more than you pay the, it's like paying Lance Briggs more than Brian Urlacher. That's what it's kind of like right now. When it comes to Cole Kmet, I feel like there should be an asterisk next to that because it's the Bears who don't utilize Cole Kmet. Like we know what Cole Kmet can do because we've seen what he can do when they utilize him, but they don't utilize him. So is that really on Cole Kmet, or is that more on the organization and the offensive play calling that this team has had for the last 3 years, where they don't effectively use this piece they've had on their team, this weapon, and they don't use them? Like, go back to the Nola game 2 years ago. He killed Nola. And then they went away from Kmet, and we ended up losing the game. When Kmet does things, 2 touchdown games are easy for him. The guy has got great hands, runs good routes. He's hard to tackle, but they use him as a blocker the last 3 years primarily.
Yeah, what I'll say, to that is like anytime you have a whole new regime and a whole new coaching staff, new head coach, your history to an extent, will be used against you in the court of law. You know what I mean? Like the new coaching staff isn't as drilled into, your details of your career. I mean, they're gonna look at it themselves, make their own judgment, and they might come to the same conclusion that you just did, Ken. But my point being, it's looked at from a new, fresh perspective.
Well, that's
and
what I'm thinking, like with Ben Johnson being there and the fact he likes to use 2 tight ends, like look, if DeAndre Swift has a good year at $8.6 million cap hit next year, they won't touch it. They'll leave it alone because that's what a good running back is going to cost you probably anyways. In fact, if he has if he has 1,200 yards or so this year and produces next year at $8.6 million cap hit, he might be looked at as a bargain for running back, right? For Cole Kmet, if he has a good season finally under Ben Johnson and Ben Johnson utilizes him, and after he does his analysis, the 11.6 might look like a good to great deal. Now, if he's just going to block and not be an offensive weapon, then he's still going to be in that overrated category.
Yeah, I was going to say, so he's currently the 7th highest paid tight end. And it's one of those things. They didn't draft Colston Loveland 10th overall for him, not to become the starting tight end. When that happens, we'll see. But Colston Loveland, step one is he has to be ready for camp. There's no guarantee he's going to be healthy, which obviously buys Cole Kmet a little bit, more time. So, one could actually speculate that, if Colston Loveland does come back by trade deadline, maybe they dangle Cole Kmet out there as a trade deadline. Either way, I feel like I've mentioned before, like this is, I just feel this is Cole Kmet, Tremaine Edmonds, Swift, last season as a Chicago Bear. I mean, to me, it's just my observations of Swift, how the business side typically works and how their contract lay out, as far as
Swift, I would probably fight back on more because at $8.6 million cap hit, if you're gonna get rid of him and sign another running back, you're gonna spend about the same for the production you're looking for. And last year he had 950 yards on a crap offensive line. If he puts up over 1,000 yards and some scores and some catch out of the backfield, let's say he gets 1,400 all-purpose yards this year at $8.6 million, he's probably at his value or a bargain. Cole Kmet and Loveland, I saw Colston Loveland. I saw an article 3 days ago. They're projecting him to be ready by camp. I think you have a better argument there because I don't completely disagree with the argument. But then again, Ben Johnson likes 2 tight end sets, and if it's a luxury that you can afford, they might not do anything. They might keep both of them and run them both out there and really make it interesting for teams now when you run a 3 receiver, 2 tight end set going, what the hell is going on here? When it comes to Edwards, I think that I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like either he restructures massively or he's looking for something else next year.
Yeah, and I was just going to add, I could see the Bears' plan, for linebacker for next season being like, okay, we're going to cut Tremaine Edmonds. and then move TJ Edwards to middle linebacker, and then you got Hippolyte, who will be the starting outside linebacker, your weak side linebacker, whatever you want to call it.
It depends how your rookies and second-year players, how they're developing this year.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. I mean, and then with the running back thing too, like I said, the only 7th round draft pick in the history of football I've ever had an expectation for, literally, for the Bears anyway, is Kyle Monangai. So we'll see how he does. Like you said, we'll see how the rookies perform. But yeah, I don't think if he does take over the starting role, from Swift at some point, becomes the lead back. I don't. Again, this is like, I don't think you pay a backup tight end, $11.6 million. I don't think you pay a backup running back $8 million or whatever.
Well, and then once again, though, like in both the tight end and running back situations, he likes 2 running back sets. He likes 2 tight end sets. And right now, you've got 2 really good tight ends for receiving. Sure. You've got a good blocking one that you signed. He's decent track record as a blocker. And running back room, actually, the odd man out could be Roschon Johnson. I think Monangai is more of a Roschon type guy, down the middle, which is what Swift is not. Swift is more your outside. That really Roschon could be the odd man out in the running back room next year.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Also, it's not the most, those are positions you can draft, fairly easily. A backup tight end, like a number 2 tight end, number 2 running back. It's a lot, easier to draft them. And yeah, Roschon, that's a good point. So like, I've been thinking that as well. Like, to me, dude, I'm getting every kind of inclination that like Kyle Monangai is the apple of Ben Johnson's eye right now. And I still think there is a little something between him and Swift where, yeah, it's not really out in the media or anything, but I don't think they necessarily get along the best. Now, that's pure speculation on my part. There's nothing of substance you're going to go out and be able to do a search for and find. But long story short, I agree with what you're saying. Like, both of those guys I feel are going to be better running backs than Roschon. And if you add the injury history as well, like, yeah, he could very well be the odd man out next year. He could, but yeah, I don't expect Swift to be on the team either.
And I think like Cole Kmet, it comes down to, can you afford to keep him? If he has a good year and you've got money in the cap, he's a luxury. If you can afford to keep him, you keep him. Because I mean, if you think about $11 million, if you trade him, you're probably getting a second, third rounder if he has a good year in the draft, which is only costing you like $2 or $3 million on cap. Depending where in the second round, let's say if you got a second rounder for him, maybe a third rounder, but still, if you can afford that luxury, I think you keep it. Like if you give Geno Smith, Brock Bowers and another tight end, I think like the same thing the Raiders would do. This any team would do that. If you can keep the luxury, you keep it. And Cole Kmet might be looked at as a luxury. But at the same time, the trade deadline thing, I think it depends if the Bears are pushing for a playoff spot, and if there's another pressing need that they could use him to get, and they feel it, well, if we got rid of Cole and brought in, let's say it's an edge rusher, make a trade that way. That you see what I'm saying? Like if the Bears are in a playoff push, they're not going to be sellers, they're going to be buyers. So the only way
yes, I agree.
Is if like maybe you got some hole filled and you feel you could survive without Cole. It's going to be interesting. I mean, as we get closer to camp, what are we, about 2 weeks now from rookies and quarterbacks and some players starting to report, and then a couple days later, the rest of the teams report. Some of these things like, hey, second rounders, guys, 30 of them still haven't signed. Here we've gone another week almost. No second rounders have signed. I've seen zero news. I guess we're all waiting on Seattle to see what they do. They're the next man up. The second rounder thing, I mean, not to beat the horse dead, but I mean, at what point are these second rounders are they going to sign? And is there a guy who's going to say, you know what? I'm done waiting. I'm like the 23rd pick of the second round. I don't really care about fully guaranteed. I'm confident in my abilities. I'm going to make this team and be a player for 4 years, and I'm just going to sign. When's that going to happen?
Yeah, inquiring minds want to know, because that's a big deal, and that's going to set precedent for the future of second round draft picks going forward. So I mean, this is not a small piece of news or whatever.
Well, and
You
it
know,
goes, and what's it? They all get it. Now, next year, the third round guys are going to want it.
which is exactly why I don't think they're going to get it. I think the NFL is going to win this one because they have to.
Well, not the NFL, the individual teams who don't talk to each other about this stuff. Remember, no collusion. But yeah, I mean, look at if I'm
But
Ryan
back in the
Poles,
real world, the NFL, right? Like
if
the
I'm
NFL
Ryan
has to win
Poles,
this.
I had the 9th pick in the 2nd round, and I took the night before. Could you imagine if it was all the night before camp and all of a sudden signed? I got Luther sitting there the 9th pick of the 2nd round, and look at Poles already probably knows what he wants to do, or he might even be willing to give him fully guaranteed. But obviously, if you're Poles, you might be willing to give it, but he's not going to give it right now because he wants to see what the 4 or 5 guys who still need to sign a guy ahead of him is going to do. And if they're not going to give fully guaranteed, he's not going to give fully guaranteed. So right now, it's like Seattle, do something. Like you and your 2nd round pick, do something. Either sign, don't sign. Do something. Either fully guaranteed or not. Do something so we can move on to the next guy, because that's how this is going to go. And then eventually, when that first team gives the non-fully guaranteed, I think the rest of them, boom, they just sign like that. But right now, it's okay. Wait for number 3. Okay, number 3 signed, not fully guaranteed. Okay, Cleveland, the 4th guy in the 2nd round. What are you going to do? Are you going to give him? Okay, you are. Okay, so 5th guy. And that's what's going to be. It's going to be that waiting game to see what the team before you is going to do and who's going to break the trend, right, and not give a fully guaranteed contract. And the second that happens, and the rest sign. So, like, if Seattle today signs their 2nd round pick to a non-fully guaranteed, all 30 contracts would probably be done today.
Yeah.
I could see it going into camp, though. As stupid as it is on their part, on the players' part, like you're missing part of your first training camp. Like, you're not giving yourself a great chance to start your career the right way. Because camp is important, and like this is your first time taking NFL level hits. Like you need to get used to that. And I don't know, but I could see it going into training camp. I could see some guys holding out, not signing till halfway through camp.
Yeah, I could see the owners being real hard asses about this, and I can't say I really blame them.
And Philip then throws in left tackle and center positions that are unsettled in the North. I knew all 4 teams are new centers. All 4 teams have a new left tackle. I guess the Bears do. The Bears, will have a new left tackle. It looks like because of injury more than anything off the rip. If Braxton Jones wasn't injured, I'm not so sure that he would be losing the starting position. To be honest with you, I think they would wait. First off, Ozzy's not signed yet. But they would wait if he wasn't injured. I think they would wait. And then injuries and rookie draft picks. So I guess so.
The Vikings signed a new center, Ryan Kelly. The Bears signed a new center, Drew Dahlman. Lions are going to have a new center, most likely Graham Glasgow, and away we go.
Yeah, but these rookies, man, like if they hold out, they're losing money right off the rip. If you're holding out there in camp, you're not getting paid.
And like Joe said, like how many times have you seen it? Like a rookie comes in, he gets behind, he falls behind because of an injury or a holdout, from the jump, and it really affects him. Not just his rookie season; it affects him year 2, and it snowballs into year 3. And
here's another thing, broski. Remember the NFL changed this rule? I think it was last year or the year before. Remember how it used to be back in the day? The team would assess you fines for missing camp, and then they would forgive them when you signed your new contract.
Yes,
they changed that rule that if a team designates you as getting fined, they can't forgive it anymore. So it used to be like, hey, broski, you want your new deal, and you're like, yeah, I'm not going to come to camp until I get it. I'm like, okay, cool, I'm going to fine you $50,000 a day, and you're like, whatever. And then you sign your deal, and you're like, hey, how about this, $300,000 in fines I've racked up? Yeah, we'll forgive those. Now the NFL is like, nope, you can't forget it. So if you're, really, let's say you're Seattle, and we're all waiting on you, they could just okay, kid, you're gonna get fined 30 grand a day, or 40 grand a day, 50 grand a day, 100 grand a day, whatever. And dude, now it puts you that rookie, it's 100 grand a day. Dude, you missed 10 days, you're $1 million out, and you're only making $2 million this year.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you with that. I mean, that's definitely something that has to be weighed in the decision making process by these players for sure. But there's one thing, Ken. There's one thing I wanted to kind of like circle back to and touch on. I was curious as to your thoughts on something regarding Cole Kmet in his season last year. So he came out and he started doing that podcast during the season last year.
Yeah.
Now, what's your take on that? My personal take is like I think it's a terrible idea if you're a player to have a podcast during the season. In the off season, who cares? During the season, not thinking that's the best idea. What do you think?
You know what though? The Kelceys did it. St. Brown does it. A lot of players are doing it. It's another source of income and revenue because they all get. Obviously these guys get sponsors like we don't. So hey, if you want to sponsor a show, we could use one. But these guys are getting these big drink companies and stuff like that to give them, hundreds of thousands of dollars or so to. So I mean,
yeah, but what do you think the impact is on their performance on the field? Because like Travis Kelce didn't have the greatest season last year. His brother, retired, whatever, 2 seasons ago. I mean, he was been in the league so long, he knew he was going to retire.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't affect St. Brown. It doesn't affect a lot of these other players. I mean, yeah, good point there, Philip. That's what I'm thinking too. That they're going to be a great duo, barring injuries. Injuries is the great equalizer of any argument any of us makes here. I don't know. I mean, what's it take a half hour, 45 minutes, or an hour out of a random Wednesday or Thursday night or Friday or, I mean, I don't know what day they record them. Usually it's the day they don't have practice, so they're sitting at home anyways on a Saturday afternoon. Who cares if they could take an hour watching CSI or take an hour doing a podcast? I mean, I don't think it changes their performance. I mean, that's like saying, oh, well, every Friday night, Jordan Love and his new wife go see a rom-com, so now he's not as good of a quarterback. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So I don't think that these guys doing their podcasts hurt. I think from a fan perspective, if you watch them, it's interesting because you get a much different point of view than you get watching us.
No, I hear you with that. I always wonder too if like the wrong thing is said or leaked or whatever on the podcast, if that would ever have any locker room implications as well.
Well, that is probably the best point for why you don't do it, because you have to be very mindful of what you say. Luca. Or going to the massage parlor, right? If Justin Tucker just had a podcast, he wouldn't have been in trouble. No, but Broski brings up a great point, though. Like, what if you let slip something you shouldn't let slip? Like, that makes sense. What I think is smart, though, like when you watch the Kelceys, when you watch St. Brown, they don't ever talk about the opponent coming up, really, minus superfluous stuff that they'll say something very insignificant, like, oh, it's gonna be a good game, it's gonna be a tough game. They usually talk about the opponent they just had. In a few cases, like the St. Browns, for instance, when EQ was with the Bears, like him and his brother War Week had their own little War Week, and they talked a little trash to each other only. Made a bet with each other, like which one of us has more receiving yards, kind of thing. But yeah, that would definitely be, if I'm a GM or a head coach, even a concern. But I don't think there's been an instance where we've seen that yet, or we've heard about it at least. So, like, if Cole's not saying anything that's letting any state secrets out, look at it. They could say, hey, he's not giving interviews. Why? Watch his podcast. Why talk to the media when you can be the media?
Yeah, no, I hear that. I just feel that it just, it could be a distraction for Cole individually, and for possibly for the rest of the locker room, but more importantly, just for him directly. Yeah, I mean, I just think it's something they should hold off on until after the season. But You know,
sometimes they bring teammates on, like, like, hey, we'll talk. They'll bring a teammate on or something. But yeah, I can agree with you that how it could become a distraction. It could be. I think though, until it gets to that point, you let the guy go. Like, let him do his thing. Like, it's his free time. If he wants to do a podcast, I mean,
yeah.
I want
hear
to just
you.
point out Max Crosby has a weekly podcast, and it doesn't seem to affect his level of play. Like Max does a weekly podcast during the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, especially if they're like just doing basically more of a recap of the last game they just played, and maybe they bring another teammate on and they talk about the game they just played and certain parts of the game. I think it's great insight for us and for fans. I mean, because these guys go on talk shows, sports talk shows too, right? Like, and coaches have had their own TV shows, let alone podcasts. So what's different? Players used to be, and their players have had TV shows, right? Like in your market, like the Max Crosby show on the local Fox at Saturday at 9 p.m. or whatever. These guys have had their own shows. Coaches have had their own shows. I mean, it's just the medium has changed. That's all. And now it's more accessible, so you don't need a TV deal from your local station anymore to do it. You just do your own podcast in your apartment or your house or wherever.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. It's part of the new modern, NFL. But yeah, just throwing it out there. I think it's an interesting little discussion point.
I think it's interesting, like the offseason stuff, like the St. Browns had some good stuff when they had Justin Fields on right before the trade, and some other. They've had some good shows with other play. They bring players from other teams on they're friends with. That's a weird thing still about this NFL, like, where guys are friends with guys on other teams. Like, no, you should hate these dudes, right? Yeah, and you know what? Look at, you got Hard Knocks, and now Netflix season 2 of Quarterback, and Kirk Cousins is on the second season of Quarterback again. So he's the first to be back to in 2 seasons of NFL Quarterback on Netflix. I mean, Kirk is just magic on the screen, I guess. But how's that any less of a distraction when Netflix is doing quarterbacks, I guess, every other year and receivers every other year? That's probably, I would say, more of a distraction having a camera crew follow you around everywhere. They got this year on quarterback. It's what Joe Burrow. It's Burrow. It's Kirk, and I forgot who the third quarterback they're doing this year on the show. I can't remember the third quarterback, but I know it was Burrow. Was it Josh Allen maybe? But they're following 3 quarterbacks around. They followed 3 quarterbacks around last year, and for the show. And then you got Hard Knocks. They didn't do what the Hard Knocks didn't do is that the one the Giants did last year, the preseason one. They didn't do that this year, but you still got Hard Knocks training camp, and you got Hard Knocks in season. And then you've got Netflix following around receivers. There'll be 3 receivers they follow around this year, if they're still sticking to just doing quarterbacks and receivers, or maybe they could do running backs. But you got to figure that's got to be more of a distraction than doing a podcast.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I'm not sure any other sports, organization gets as much exposure, media attention, just attention in general through the media than the NFL, man. And the
NFL loves it. Their media.
Yeah, they're going next level with it, man. They really are. They keep pushing and adding to it.
I mean, we haven't even really talked much about the international stuff this offseason, but they're pushing with the international stuff, adding games to the schedule internationally. Ask Luka about his travel plans. He's going to be spending time in Ireland and England this season, right? So that's 2 weeks he won't be in the States. I mean, they're adding to that. Their marketing campaigns across the globe are going up. They're making players are becoming more accessible with these podcasts. Because, I mean, NBA players, I think, there are a couple doing podcasts, but they're not getting the views the NFL guys are. The NFL guys are taking advantage of the NFL's marketing push by doing podcasts and the popularity right now and making extra money. I mean, how much did the Kelseys or the St. Brown or does Komet make in sponsorship deals for these podcasts they do every week?
Yeah, inquiring minds want to know that too. I mean, it's
so it's
a legit source of revenue,
Yeah, it's another revenue stream for the players, so they win. The NFL wins because there's more exposure. The fans are getting more insight in the game, which the NFL loves as well because they have smarter fans about the game. Then when you're looking at, let's say you're international fans, let's say you're a Bears fan or a Lions fan living in Europe, and now you can watch one of the players do a podcast and learn more about the game that helps them in the European market, the South American market, all these other markets, because these podcasts are on YouTube and stuff like that that can be watched anywhere in the world.
Yeah, and I was going to say recent news out of Charlotte, North Carolina is Panthers running back Chuba Hubbard he wants to play for the Canadian flag football team. He's a Canadian, so.
The flag. Yeah, so, good thing we got another year or two to worry about that issue.
Yeah, he grew up playing flag football, so I know that's something you've touched on before about how in some of the foreign countries, like that's literally how players start out. They don't even play like 7-on-7. They play flag football.
Well, yeah, because look what the NFL's done with the play 60. They've pushed flag football for play 60. Why? Because it's cheap. You don't need equipment. You need flags and a ball, and that's it. It's the cheapest way of playing football. And they get kids into playing football via flag, and then they graduate from flag to full tackle. And look, my kid was the same way. He started out playing flag, and then he played tackle in high school. So, I mean, that's the gateway. Now they're getting the girls, especially, in the flag. And don't be surprised if a decade or two from now there's a women's professional NFL. Like the WNFL. Watch that happen in 10, 20 years. I mean, they figured it out. You don't need to start kids off in Pop Warner at 6 years old in full pads and helmets. You can start them off in flag and migrate them into pads and helmets. And you can do so internationally, so now parents aren't spending gobs of money on pads and helmets. And you make it cheap and accessible, and people will play. And the NFL has been very smart. And now with the Olympics, that's going to give flag more exposure. Get more kids are going to play. I mean, it's going to grow the NFL. We talk about, it's funny, we're going to dilute the NFL. Well, first off, the NFL is only about 2,000 players, right? If you think about it, it's less than 1% of those who even play football from high school on. So, it's going to give them the opportunity to grow even more players. So now you can go to, 40 teams and not feel a dilution of skill because you're going to add more players to the pool. I mean, NFL, look, for as much as we all hate Roger Goodell, pretty slick plan, isn't it?
I mean, it's a slick plan to definitely just increase the size of the league to generate more revenue. I'll give them that. But as far as quality of the game and what people kind of like about football, I'm not sure it is. But we'll see how it balances out. We'll see which one overrules the other one.
Well, let's say you have a player pool right now of 200,000 kids or athletes per year playing organized tackle football. And now you make that number 300,000 or globally 500,000.
You could find that next gen slot receiver from Japan or, that next, Randy Moss from Sudan or something.
Well,
who knows?
Look at the NBA ever since after the Dream Team, right? Basketball exploded internationally. And now look at NBA rosters. Find me an NBA roster that doesn't have one or two guys from the country.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And that really had a lot to do with good coaches going overseas, living there, and then literally coaching kids since they were young, which football, it's a little different.
They're already doing that, though.
Let me finish. Football is a little different because you're not really teaching them football. You're teaching them flag football. So I don't know if there's really good coaches that are are there really good NFL coaches that are like retired and moving to
you've got
Africa
retired,
or Japan or
you've
wherever.
got former players, or more so Europe, but you got former players who are in Europe and Africa, or they go to Africa for stints of time and do it. I mean, look at flag football; they can at least learn certain fundamentals, right? And then putting pads on is different. But I mean, look at the migration happens here in the States too. Eventually it's going to take a decade or two. But watch that player pool explode in about 10 or 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's also a difference between doing like a camp for a month and then actually like coaching this kid since he was like 8 years old.
They've got some of that going on in Europe because there are a lot of people who retire and move to Europe for various different reasons.
And then the other aspect for Europe and stuff is too, like they have pro teams that like have like 15 and 16-year-olds playing literally in the pro teams in Europe. So that's
they different style with the US doesn't do the academy thing as well. MLS does academy, but not like they do in Europe. Academies in the US are different for soccer, but they're as close as you can be without the kids quitting school and living there. Because like you go to Germany, like Bayern Munich, if you're with the academy, you live there, you go to school there, you live at the club, right? Or your school, you go to school, your education, your like school is with the club, and then you practice. I mean, you're at the club every day. We don't necessarily do that here in the States because of the way our school system is set up. They don't do college sports like we do. It changed a little bit, but look, they'll adopt the same model that they use there for soccer, for football, and watch. Eventually, they'll start producing really good players out of Europe. And it'll happen eventually. It may not. We're not going to see it like next year. It's going to take a decade to 2 decades to really see it, because the dream team was the mid 90s, and we started to see the influx start around 2006 is when those about 10 years later that's when we started to see the influx, and now we're 20 some years later, right? Almost 30 years later, and it's almost a 50% of the league is from Europe or from places not in the US.
Yeah, Dirk was like the real big. I feel like you
had Kukoc and them early on, but they were
right. You had your Drazen Petrovic and your Arvydas Sabonis and stuff. But I'm saying like this next more modern wave, like Dirk kind of kicked it off, in my opinion.
And then you had Noah and those guys in the early mid 2000s, right? So yeah, I mean, the NFL, I think, is going on the same path. So these guys doing podcasts, go back to your original questions, like with Cole Kmet doing a podcast. The NFL loves it because it gives kids in Europe and in Mexico City and in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and whatever, more insight in the game, and they start to develop more love for the game and want to play the game, and then that they hope transfers to their kids, and now a generation or so later, they're producing NFL quality players out of these countries.
Yeah, for an NFL player, I just think it's best to limit distractions during the season, and what you do in the off season, hey, have at it. But during the season, I think they need to tighten up a little more.
Yeah, I mean, I think though it's no different than what used to be just the medium change. Now there's more of them doing it than we used to have, because Derek Brooks had a show when he was, in Tampa every week as a player. So, but now instead of going to some studio, he would just do a podcast from his house. So I mean, I don't know. These guys are all on NFL Good Morning and the NFL Network interviews and ESPN and this, that. So I mean, these guys are always doing media anyways. It's just now they're controlling the media. And I would not, trust me, I would bet dollars to donuts that every single one of these players, the team's media relations folks are on them. Like, you can't say this, and there's conversations that happen. You know what I mean? There are guidelines and rules that these players probably get from their teams. Like, you can say this, but you can't say this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, I hear that. Hey, we'll see where this goes. It's definitely.
Remember this. Luca had it right as we're running out of time. We want to leave you with this today. It's better if they're doing podcasts and out drinking and messing around with the hose. That's from Luca, paraphrased. And they're not doing Justin Tucker things. So maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. Find out tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow on Ken and Ken in the Morning. Ken should be back. I will be on the road traveling because, I'm smart and decide to travel on 4th of July weekend. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. But yeah, thank you, Broski, for being here today. Thank you, Joe, as always. Thank you guys in the comments. JB is next in about 20 seconds. Y'all have a great 4th of July. I'll see you probably, if not Monday, Tuesday for sure. So have a great one, everyone. I'll talk to you soon.